Oh, hello, everyone. It is right now 11:43 p.m. Eastern Time, April 18th, 2024. I want to talk about what breaking news that's just come out within the last hour. I'm only just seeing it now. And Candy doesn't know what's happening in the world, so all she knows is I'm doing a video, so that means I get a treat. Oh, here it is. All right, shake off, lay down, speak, 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 speak. Give me a good one. That's how give me a real speak. Lay down. Speak. There we go. Better. No one's watching right now. Let's see if anyone does come on. But I'm not even going to try and pronounce the name of the city or site within Iran that was struck. But Israel, according to widespread reporting, has struck back at Iran. I believe it's an air base. I believe it's near or centered around a nuclear facility where Iran's nuclear program is taking place. This has caught me very much by surprise. I did expect it. If you watch my previous videos, I fully anticipated that Israel would respond, like a lot of people. But I honestly did not think, and I said as much, I didn't think it was going to be days. I thought it was more a case of a matter of weeks. I thought we might even get into the month of June, early June, or more likely sometime in May. We didn't even get out of the month of April. And this is in response to Iran's attack with drones, cruise missiles, and other missiles, 200-300 of them, were launched against Israel on just this past Saturday. So it's only 4 or 5 days later, and Israel has responded with an attack on a specific location. There are also reports of attacks on Iranian facilities, both within Syria and Iraq. Iran's tentacles are said to spread throughout the Middle East, in Yemen, obviously, where they support the Houthi government, in Lebanon, where they support Hezbollah, and obviously in Gaza, where they are the backers of Hamas, who launched that October 7th attack, which started everything. And right when everything started, I was well aware of the link between Hamas and Iran, as well as Hezbollah and Iran. I only later learned about the Houthis. They were not on my radar at the beginning, but then we saw what happened with the Houthis targeting shipping in the Red Sea off their coast, and they've sunk at least one ship. This is escalating, and I'm surprised. Normally, when I anticipate something happening, it does happen often, but what I'm anticipating takes longer than what I anticipated. This time, it happened quicker than I thought it would happen. And what's really concerning is that Iran, prior to this attack, and it just happened within the last hour or so that the reporting of it has come out. Prior to this attack taking place, Iran had stated that if Israel responds, then we are going to respond. Iran said they will respond to any attack on their soil coming from Israel, respond immediately and with devastating force, or words very close to that effect. If you hit us, they were saying, we're going to hit back, and hit back hard, and hit back fast. So how quickly might Iran respond? Time will tell. We are on the cusp of things. And I'm throwing all my biases out the window. I've stated before, I have something of an immediacy bias. Jump right into the pool when the water's cold. Don't wade in slowly. Rip the Band-Aid off. I almost equate it to what is sometimes called Chinese water torture, when things just seem to take forever to get going. Just bring it. That was my thinking a lot of times during the COVID era. Just bring it on. Let's, lay your cards on the table and let's go. Well, it looks like, but things during the COVID era never worked out that way. It was always slow and painful and methodical as they encroached. What's happening now in Israel and the Middle East, where I'm not sure how many hours in front of us it is. Just type in what time is it in Tehran. So right now on my clock, it's 11:49. It's right now in Tehran, it's 7:19 a.m. So looks like they're 7.5 hours ahead in Iran, in Tehran, the capital of Iran. We shall see what happens. This is going to be unfolding as we go to bed in the Western world. Well, not just in the Western world, but North America. As North American goes to bed in the Eastern time zone, 10, 11 o'clock at night, that's when the sun is rising in the Middle East. And so lots of significant things are happening. And as I often do, I go to the Bible. In Matthew 24, verse 37, I haven't brought this one out for a while, but it's a passage many will be familiar with. Matthew 24, verse 37, where it says, "As were the days of Noah, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. For as in those days, before the flood, before the deluge, before the problems, before the, call it tribulation if you want, in the days before that, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage until the day when Noah entered the ark. And they did not know until the flood came and took them all away." When Noah and his 7 family members were left, and everyone else was taken. One is left, Noah and his family, and the rest were taken. I read this and I see, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage. I look at our world today, and it strikes me that a lot of people in the world right now, they're more concerned with how are the Leafs going to do against Boston in the first round of the NHL playoffs? Will the Miami Heat manage to win their game against whoever they're playing and grab the 8th seed for the NBA playoffs? And worrying about, I don't know if the NFL draft is coming up, worried about our sports, or worried about, a Netflix streaming show that you're watching and waiting for the next installment, or goodness knows countless other things. In Canada, people are worrying about how they're going to be able to afford to fill up their a tank of gas. Now, with gas prices having gone through the roof, all this is happening. We're all concerned with our little mundane little concerns, interests, diversions. Meanwhile, in another part of the world, in the Middle East right now, things are very much blowing up. And I've said this from the beginning because Israel stands alone in the Middle East. It's basically the one true Western-style democracy in that entire region, surrounded by dictators and emirate states. Syria is ruled by Bashar al-Assad, a dictator. The Jordanians, that's the Hashemite Emirate, a kingdom. Saudi Arabia is a kingdom. the United Arab Emirates. Emirate means kingdom. These are not democracies. Iran has a semblance of democracy, but the ultimate rulers are religious. It's something of an Islamic theocracy. They're ruled by the Ayatollahs. They also have a democratically elected governing body, but the democratically elected governing body has to answer to the Ayatollahs, to the religious leaders. And, I believe that Iran has pretty much full-on Sharia law, meaning that women have to go around with their heads covered. And even there have been protests in that country. Iran, for many years, was a very westernized country. And the Islamic Revolution, which only happened back in 1979. So it's not ancient history, it's old history. We're coming up on 50 years since that Islamic Revolution. But in living memory, people remember a time when Tehran was very westernized, and modes of dress, you could dress as you wanted. Now, of course, women can't go out without their heads covered. I find that so much of the rhetoric from those who are anti-Israel, and so by extension of being anti-Israel, they're pro-Iran, they're pro-Hezbollah, they're pro-Hamas, they're pro-Houthis, and so many of those on that side are what I typically call, what many call the liberal woke left, that want LGBTQ LMNOP and inclusion and all this stuff. Whereas in Iran, homosexuality, if you're a homosexual in Gaza, it's a good chance you might just being openly homosexual could get you thrown off a building, for goodness sakes. And this is who the woke left liberal types support. It's insane. Israel is far from perfect. Far from it. We're all broken, fallen, all of humanity. And Israel is broken and fallen too, as broken and fallen as are Canadians, Americans, Europeans, and the Islamic world. But anyway, we shall see what's happening, what's going to happen in the coming hours and the coming days, coming weeks. The dominoes could very easily start to fall. I said it from the beginning of this, going all the way back to October of last year, with the so-called axis of resistance. That's, I believe, Iran's term for Iran and her allies. And they have allies all surrounding Israel, in Lebanon, in Syria, and they have military assets in Iraq. And even among Israel's allies, when that attack took place on Saturday, this Saturday just passed, when Iran launched those 200-300 drones and everything else, the cruise missiles and other missiles, when they attacked Israel, Jordan shut down its airspace completely, which made Israel and the Americans assisting, and probably some other allies as well, but it made the job of shooting those drones and those missiles down far easier when both Jordan and reportedly also Saudi Arabia shut down their airspace. So it made identifying incoming ballistics far easier. And it should be noted that while Jordan was the Jordanian government, this kingdom, was supporting Israel in repelling that attack, that's the government. The people of Jordan are quite often supportive of Iran. It has to be remembered that Jordanians and Palestinians are the same people. The difference is a passport, basically. ethnically, religiously. There's no difference between a Jordanian and a Palestinian. Jordanians were used to live in Palestine. The British Mandate for Palestine was created formally. It was formalized in 1920, and it included all of what is Israel today and all of what is Jordan today. So the people living in Jordan are no different from, they're ethnically, religiously, 99.9% of them are the same as the residents of the West Bank. The people who lived in the West Bank, I believe the date was 1988. I think it was July 30th. On July 30th, 1988, I might not be 100% right on the dates, but I think I'm close. July 30th, 1988, Jordan fully relinquished its claim to the West Bank. And so people in the West Bank went to sleep at the end of July as Jordanian citizens, and when they woke up in the morning, they found out they had become Palestinians. And again, the same people. And so while Jordan may be supporting Israel, I don't know that it has a large measure of support with the Jordanian population, the Jordanians who are also Palestinians. I think they're far more supportive of Hamas and Hezbollah and the Houthis, who are all backed by Iran. I think the Jordanian government realizes what a threat the Iranian regime is and their Shia brand of extremist Islam. Got to read. Mish Christie. Okay, didn't Israel attack the consulate first, Damascus, before Iran retaliated? Yes, this is, you see, these are the tit for tat little game that's going on. Hamas is a Iran proxy. So when Hamas attacked Israel on October 7th, Israel initially, they responded by attacking Gaza specifically with the stated objective of wiping Hamas out and to remove Hamas from the Gaza Strip. However, I guess it's now 2 weeks ago, about 2 weeks ago, that Israel, and from what I understand, it was F-35 fighter jets, targeted a complex in the Syrian capital of Damascus. And this complex includes the embassy, consular buildings, and an annex. Now, here's where things get dicey. Israel claims that the annex that was actually struck, that it's a military installation, and it just happens to be attached to the embassy, but it's not part of the embassy. And they said, we attacked a military installation. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying that's what Israel is saying. The Iranians, by contrast, are saying that it was their embassy grounds that were hit, and so they regarded that and said that's the same as striking Iranian soil. And when a Canadian travels abroad, if you go to Paris, if you go to London, if you go to the Canadian embassy in any particular city in a different part of the world, once you step onto the embassy grounds, you are said to be on Canadian soil. Same if you go to the U.S. Embassy in Ottawa. The U.S. Embassy is considered to be American soil. So Iran, their rhetoric coming from Tehran was that attack about 2 weeks ago, that was an attack on Iranian soil, and they vowed a response. And then on just this Saturday past, that response came, and it was for the first time ever an attack from Iran onto Israeli soil. Prior to that, any attacks that Iran directed against Israel, they never did it directly from their own country. They would have the Houthis, they'd have Hezbollah, they'd have Hamas, they'd have Islamic Jihad, they'd have groups they have military groups within Syria and Iraq as well, and they would use their proxies to attack Israel. This is the first time in history, Saturday past, when Iran attacked directly from their soil, and Israel had promised that they would respond, and that's what we've seen in the closing hours of, well, now it's the 19th. We just passed midnight. And I guess it's the 19th. It was the morning or early morning hours, late evening hours when Israel launched an attack. And I'm not even going to attempt to say the name of the city or the facility. What I'm hearing from all the mainstream sources right now is that it was a military, an Air Force base. There's talk that it's a location from where it's a location where Iran constructs its drones. So it could be seen as an attempt by Israel to take out the Iranians' capacity to build and launch drones. And also, it also is said to contain missile launchers. I was just listening to a report that says Iran only has somewhere between 100 and 200 missile launchers to launch cruise and other missiles at Israel. And these are long-range missiles that have about 2,000 kilometers worth of range. So they're well capable of hitting Israel directly. So Israel, having just been attacked on Saturday by missiles and drones, is striking back and hitting at the facilities that would enable Iran to do that kind of thing again. The big question right now, I mean, we can look and try and figure out what comes next. And Iran has promised prior to this attack, prior to this strike, they promised that if Israel did respond, that their response would be immediate and devastating. And when you look at Hezbollah in Lebanon, I've read reports that they have 200,000 rockets aimed at Israel. And the ability of the Iron Dome to handle when missiles are coming from Iran, they're having to travel 1,000 or so kilometers to get to Israeli soldiers. And then with Jordan and the Saudis closing down their airspace, that's one thing. Lebanon is the northern border. It's like Buffalo to Ontario. It's like Niagara Falls, New York to Niagara Falls, Ontario. They're right next to each other. And the ability of this Iron Dome anti-ballistic missile defense system to handle a large barrage, could it be overwhelmed? With my limited understanding, I would have to assume that, yeah, there is potential that Iran firing from Lebanon and maybe even from Yemen, where the Houthis are, and then from Iran itself, that they could potentially, I believe, overwhelm Israel's Iron Dome defensive systems. And there's a lot of individuals who don't like Israel for whatever reason. And you're getting what you want. You wanted to see Israel wiped off the map. You wanted to see, Israel wiped out from the river to the sea, from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea. That's Hamas's big slogan: from the river to the sea. That's all to them. That's all Islamic Palestinian territory. They want it all. They want Israel wiped out from the river to the sea, and a lot of people support that. Well, this is what's coming. This is what's coming: a war to determine who is going to control this Levantine coast from the river to the sea. Will it be Israel, or will it be Iran and her proxies? And even though Israel has its allies in the Arab world with the Jordanian government, their dictatorial kings, or this Hashemite dynasty, and the Saudis, the House of Saud rules Saudi Arabia, while they may have support from Arab governments in Jordan and Saudi Arabia, I think support amongst the population, the general population of both Saudi Arabia and Jordan, I don't think the support is strong for their own. I don't think Jordanians support their own rulers, nor a lot of Saudis. And when you look at what's happening in Yemen, has been a civil war going on for 10 years between a rebel group called the Houthis, who are supported by Iran, and by the Saudi-backed royal family. There's the royal family of Yemen, backed by Saudi Arabia, and then you have the Houthis, who are supported by Iran. And they've been having a 10-year civil war that no one knows about, and no one cares about the 250,000 little kids under 5 years of age who have been killed. Talk about a genocide. 250,000 children under the age of 5 have been killed in Yemen over the last 10 years, and no one cares. Because there are no editorial comment. The reason no one calls it a genocide is because you can't propagandize and weaponize it, because there are no Jews involved. It's Arab Muslims killing Arab Muslims. It's Arab Muslim little kids, many often starving to death because of this brutal civil war that's been going on. But no one cares about that. All they care about is what's going on in the Gaza Strip, because that's all the nightly news focuses on. They don't tell you anything that's coming out of Yemen. Yemen's an incredibly poor country, and people are dying just because they can't get access to basic medical care, and the war has had such a devastating impact on supply chains that people are starving to death. But again, no one cares about that, except to the extent that the Houthis are now involved. And good for the Houthis. Who cares if they're slaughtering and genociding their own people? They're against Israel. Rah, rah, rah. Someone put up the acronym FML. It's not one of my favorite expressions, but the hypocrisy among this woke left crowd, who are so absolutely hate Israel, and that criticizing Israel is fair enough. Israel is not perfect, but there's a double standard. Israel is expected to be perfect. Yemen can kill 250,000 children under the age of 5, and that's okay. It's insane what's going on. And now we've got Iran is allied with Russia, and Russia has a no limits partnership with China. That no limits partnership between Russia and China is thought to be primarily economic, but how far would it extend? War and economics often go hand in hand. So, and then you also have the Russians, who have hosted Kim Jong from North Korea. We have an epic battle shaping up. And it seems now it's not just Iran, but Turkey is lining up with Iran as well. And Turkey is the seat of the old Ottoman Empire. They were sometimes alternately called the Turkish Empire, or the Ottoman Turks. Lots of different names. Mish Christie is the only one who's chimed in. So yes, they did hit. This is, I've equated it before to World War One. Archduke Ferdinand and his wife Sophia murdered, assassinated in Sarajevo, and that was kind of the spark that led to World War One. It's looking like the attack of October 7 could very well be the spark, because that started the snowball, and now the snowball is getting bigger and it's moving faster, and we'll see what happens tomorrow, the rest of this week. Looks like I was wrong. I thought I wasn't expecting a response this quick. I remembered well the fact that after that October 7th attack, it was 2 or 3 weeks before Israel responded with their attack on Gaza. Miss Christie, if you get into the Word, we know where this is going to lead. How quickly could things calm down and things be pushed even further into the future? And we can go back to, eating and drinking, marrying, giving away in marriage, to use the biblical reference from Matthew 24, or going back to worrying about the NHL and NBA playoffs and, our Netflix streaming shows and having a yard sale, or, worrying about our own little mundane little lives, our little diversions and distractions, and planning our vacations. Could we go back to that? Maybe. But this has always been inevitable. Ever since the closing days of World War I, this was inevitable. Britain and France went in. It was primarily Britain, but France was involved as well. And they carved up the Middle East. And they, invented a bunch of countries. Britain got its mandate for Palestine, and they said, here, and they took 75% of it and said, we'll give it to these Arabian Hashemites. You can rule the Palestinians in this part. If you want to call them Palestinians. I mean, Palestinian is a very problematic term, because it actually, the root word of it is Philistines. So you can rule the Philistines. I mean, it's a long history. But in 135 AD, Hadrian, who was emperor of Rome, wanted to wipe the name of Israel off the map for forever. Never wanted to see the name of Israel again. So he renamed the former Roman territory that they'd been ruling for, probably in around 100 years. He renamed it Philistia, which was the Latin rendering of land of the Philistines, Philistia. And he chose that name on purpose because the Philistines had been the enemies of even more ancient Israel, going back to the days of King David. David and Goliath. Goliath was a Philistine from the land of the Philistines, Philistia. And then eventually into English, Philistia got rendered as Palestine. So when we talk about Palestinians, we're talking about the Philistines. And the Philistines are widely believed to have been originally from Greece, but whatever. I mean, a name is a name is a name. Call it whatever you want. It's the land of Israel. That's, it's Jerusalem. Hadrian even renamed Jerusalem Capitolina something. I forget what how he renamed Jerusalem. And Muslims have a different name for Jerusalem, but we all know it's Jerusalem. Dome of the Rock, that everyone sees, where the most contentious piece of real estate in the entire world. And we will see what happens. I have talked about it before, that I think what we could see happen is we get into a situation where rockets start flying like crazy. The Iron Dome anti-ballistic missile defense system shooting down rockets coming from Iran, from Syria, from Lebanon, maybe from Turkey now as well. Who knows? And then Likewise, Israel responding with its own rockets at locations in Lebanon and Syria and Iran, rockets flying all over. And all that would have to happen is for one stray rocket to hit the Temple Mount and take out the Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque. And then now we're getting super biblical, because now the ground would be cleared for the construction of a third Jewish temple, something that hasn't existed since the year AD 70. Anyway, that I'll leave it there. If you like this, I think I've already got 5 thumbs up. Thank you to whomever. I do appreciate it. I get the endorphin, the little dopamine, whatever that drug is in the brain when people engage. I'm guilty. I'm as fallen and as broken a person as anyone else. If you want to subscribe to my channel, you're most welcome. If you hit the bell, if you click subscribe and then click on the bell and highlight receive all notifications, then you'll know when I'm going live. My videos are most often live. I do a pre-recorded one every now and again, and I'm hoping that next week, I have been speaking more with my friend George Antonios, talking about the rapture, about what's going, also touching on, obviously, what's going on in the Middle East. And it's interesting to get his perspective, because his grandparents were actually what people call Palestinians, born in Bethlehem. And they, before the 1948-1949 First Arab-Israeli War, they were told to leave and go seek refuge in a neighboring country. They went to Lebanon, which is where George himself was born. And they were told, you know, once we wipe the Jews out, you can come back and you'll have even more land. Average white guy says, you're welcome, always appreciated. And Miss Christie appreciates the update. You can get it from sources better than me. It's all over YouTube right now. Just type Iran, Israel, and you'll see the news. I might provide just a slightly different take on it. I obviously have my biases, my beliefs, my frame of reference. Other people have different frame of reference. If you go to Al Jazeera, I'm sure they'll have a completely different take on it, for obvious reasons. Anyway, God bless, and we'll talk to you later. Thanks, Miss Christie.